Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Council Fire with the Riverwinds. We are your hosts. I am Chief Joseph Riverwind.
And I'm Dr. Larlin Riverwind.
And we want to apologize for yesterday. We did attempt to do a counting of the Omer
We
today.
did a whole
Actually, we
we
did
did a whole thing
a whole
yesterday.
teaching. Even though we learned that our friend was murdered from the embassy, we did come on, and it just would not upload. There was no signal. It was a bright, clear, beautiful, sunny day, and it just didn't work. So we didn't want you to think that we were inconsistent, or that we
That we
didn't
didn't
keep
show up.
our
We did.
our yay, because we very much are people who, if we say yay, we like to keep our yays be yays. So even despite our mourning, we try to come on. So thank you for your grace. We do have some things that we want to talk about today. Things are still difficult, even if these things are unraveling, and we're learning more about how our friend died, and just the responses that we're getting on social media, in private messages, public messages. We are absolutely, when Scripture says that love will wax cold in the end days, that is definitely what is happening. And
Not with
he,
us,
not
but
with us. And then hearing people saying things like, "This is a false flag," that it's not real. Some even saying, all of a sudden our chat is working again. Others saying that Sarah and Yaron weren't real people. Um, so we that's already been shut down a few times today. Don't believe this junk. So please keep us in your prayers, and we will count the day
um, today is day
34
34 of the Omer.
of the Omer. Yes, and we have just a few more days as we are preparing ourselves to ascend to Shavuot. And this is uh, the Creator knows everything, and maybe we just don't understand all things. But this is part of the process for all of us as we are ascending to and heading towards Pentecost. Okay,
Snuggle in, honey.
snuggled in. Okay,
Well, I don't usually bite.
there we go. Okay, so the word that when we were praying this morning, and also just talking with our friends, our Israeli friends and our Jewish friends, and just kind of coming to this realization of what happened yesterday, or the night before last night, and then the aftermath. There's hardly anything on the news. We had to search for it to try to get information. We're getting information from our friends in Israel before we're getting it right here in our own country, and
From
it
our nation's capital,
yeah,
to
from
be
our
something.
nation's capital. And yet again, and I don't know if you posted what you said this morning, but when Laurelyn said something this morning that just absolutely blew me away.
I
Do you
haven't said
remember?
it yet.
You haven't said it yet?
Yes. Um,
Well, it ties into what we want to share with you today.
and that is directed to believers, directed to the church, directed to Christians, directed to those who follow the Messiah, Yeshua, and that is the echo of your silence is deafening to the Jewish community. It is very difficult. And I know that some people are speaking out, but the algorithms of social media are making it buried. They're burying your voice. They're burying our voice, our voices. And so let's make sure we do things in visual. We need to have Israel flags on our profile pictures, and we need to have we need to speak out as often as we can.
And don't be afraid to speak out. Don't let fear capture you, because this is a death cult. These are the arms of the dragon at work. And
If you think you're not already on a list, it's naivety to
mhm,
believe that. And so, and if you think that you're going to avoid getting on a list,
it is naivety.
it's it's
I
also,
think that.
let's just call it what it is. It's fear and cowardice. So I know that may be hard to hear. I know that sounds harsh,
But you're
but I'm
also
a truth
hearing,
teller, you
yeah,
guys. We're going to tell you the truth. And we're going to call out the problems we see in ourselves. And we're going to call out the problems we see in the church. Because
that's what you're
that's what
supposed to do.
that's what leaders are supposed to
That's
do.
what watchmen do. That's what leaders are supposed to do. And we're not saying that we have it all right and that our doctrine is perfect and that we have everything under the right auspices of everything. We're not perfect. We're all flawed. But we try to live our lives to the standard and try to process the world and what's happening in it through a biblical worldview. It's filtered through the Holy Spirit and empowered by the revelation of Creator Spirit to do so. And so that our faith, right? Because we don't nullify Creator's commandments with our faith. We establish it, so we walk it out, and we also understand that we have a higher standard to be held to when we teach. So we are very meticulous about what we share and what we are experiencing, not just personally, because now this has absolutely affected us at a personal level. We were in awe that for since October 7th, that with all of our friends and family and people that we know and work with, that we didn't know somebody
Personally, yeah.
personally.
We felt like we were walking between the raindrops. And uh, and that can only last for so long.
And the silence has been it where the voices, not just the silence of algorithms on YouTube or social media, but believers. Where are the voices? These were two Jewish believers in Yeshua, two believers that when you have the prime minister, and you've got the ambassador of the country, and you have the whole nation rallying and mourning for this couple, right? Like the ident something, there is a shift. I'm praying that there's a shift in the acceptance of who they were
As
as
believers,
believers.
they were loved
They were
for.
absolutely loved.
It's interesting because you don't have to be always screaming the name into ears that can't hear. Um, Sometimes they just need love. We're not ashamed of Yeshua. We love Yeshua. But when it strikes a raw place in somebody who's not able or willing to hear, look at what the sacrifice that's happened here, the massacre of these two beautiful souls has done. You know, I think about just the community rallying around her and the fact that I'll never get a text from her again. And, um, you know, you guys, this is the end times.
We talked about earlier, even before the counting, how prophecy says that the fishermen go out and then the hunters. And in Amsterdam and all throughout this movement, this death cult movement that glorifies death, that thinks it's okay to kidnap babies and beat them to death and parade their bodies when being returned, to label them as prisoners of war, children. We're dealing with
That
this.
they are prisoners of war as
Yeah,
children is horrific.
yeah. What is happening is exactly what Scripture says. The keffiyeh that's worn by these people is actually based on an ancient Mesopotamian fishing net. And in Amsterdam, we heard the shouts, "Hunt the Jews, hunt them." And so now it has gone even more so from hunting to actually hunting and murdering. It wasn't just an instant. It wasn't an instant thing. She crawled. Tried to crawl away. He emptied his gun into her and then reloaded. I think it
Walking
was
along beside her as she
walking along
crawled.
beside her, and I think it was 21 bullets, according to the police report. That was hate upon hate upon hate, and then he's going to yell this stupid Free Palestine stuff. And then the news isn't reporting much of this. He also spoke another sentence, something to the effect of, "This is how the final solution is supposed to be played out," something to that.
Intifada.
Yeah. So this is very real, y'all. We are very much living in these times, and the dragon is going to come against those who have the testimony of Yeshua according to Revelation and those who keep the commandments, meaning the Torah. And that is the Jewish people and those who believe in Yeshua and who are standing with Israel. All of our necks are on the chopping block. And why? I have a hunch that many of you who are watching this have at some point in your life said these words, Hineini, Hineini, here I am. And when you say those words, Hineini, and we're hearing our friends saying, where are you? Where are you? This is what we want to talk about today.
As believers, we say that we're willing to lay our lives down, right? But yet, we can't lose friends for it. We are scared to mention it at work because we don't know if we'll lose our jobs from it. Is that really who we as believers want to be? We have to be willing to give up everything for what we believe in.
If you spoke those words, those are heavy, heavy, heavy words. Let's do some digging into that, because I remember when we spoke those words and we said Hineini, and of course the first thing you think of is we're about to embark on an incredible adventure, working for the greatest boss in the universe, the creator of all things, Yahweh, right? And they're absolutely beautiful things, but it's very much an experience. It's an experience that's going to bring you to the mountaintops and it's going to bring you deep below.
So tell them what Hineini means.
So, Hineini, in its fullness, right? So Hineini is two words put together. It comes from the root word hine, which means behold, and ani, which is I. And in the thinking, in the biblical thinking of the first century, and even through to today, the word Hineini really fully means, here I am fully in whatever happens. Whatever happens. This is the biblical understanding of this word Hineini. Whatever happens, here I am fully. I'm all in, 100%, completely. I'm here.
We don't get the luxury when we sign on to be a believer or when we are weighing the pros and cons of following the Messiah to know what's going to happen, the end from the beginning. Only the Lord knows the end from the beginning. And if this is a scary thought to you, you know, let's face it, we don't know what's going to happen when we get in the store in our car to go to the store. But we can't live in fear. And we have decisions to make. And I wanted to look up a verse for you, and my phone is not.
Your phone's not.
Can you?
Because it's on this. You need to take it off that.
Okay.
Well, while she's looking up that verse, I'll share with you the law of first mention of the root word hine, behold, and even in itself, in the Hebraic concept of the word hineini or hine, behold, it's like a picture of somebody going, look at what I'm pointing at, right? It's a directive. It's a directive action word to look. There's a revelation that's about to be shown here. Behold, it's more than just glance over here. It's look with intent, look with purpose. There's something more than what you're seeing here. So the first time that word is used, behold, Hine, is in Genesis 1:29, which says then, and now the NIV, the nearly inflammable version or the nearly incomplete version, takes out the word behold. I don't know. It doesn't even translate it as see or look. But it says, then Yahweh said, behold, I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth and every tree that has fruit with seed in it. They will be yours for food. That's the first time that Hine was used. Did you find the verse?
Yes.
Okay.
And then the next time it's used 2 verses later.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Let's see if it's used in the. Yeah, it's used 2 verses later in 31, and it's talking about that God saw everything that He had made, and behold, it was very good.
Very good. Now,
When you look at the word Hineini in the etymological biblical dictionary, it says presenting something new, to see, look if right. It also says this place and now. These are all wrapped up in that word. So when it's behold, there's a new creation. These were living things that were made. He talked in 29. It's wrapped up in life.
mm-hmm.
It's wrapped up in life and destiny and purpose and
even concealed and hidden purpose and things to be revealed. Those are the seeds.
and so when it says now in this wrapped up in this word, there is an element of timeliness to it, of urgency, of this moment. And so when we look at that, this, Samuel said, "Here am I." When he was like 6 years old, the Lord called him and he said, "Hineini, here I am." We don't get to know what it is that the Lord wants of us, but I'll tell you, it's a high honor to be considered, or to have your death mean a purpose, that it not just be about a sickness or a random event, seemingly random.
Or
event.
as I heard you say one day when you were praying one day, I don't want to die laying warm in my bed. That's
I
also.
want to die for what I live for.
Yeah.
My purpose is wrapped up in Him, whether it be my life or my death. May our purpose be wrapped up in Him. And may my death bring people closer to Him and inspire others.
Mm-hmm. So, Genesis 3:10, that's the next place that we're going. And it's where we see, for the first time, the word Hineini. Right? So we were talking about the word Hine, behold. Hineini comes from the bringing together of the two words, Hine, behold, Ani, I. Interestingly enough, we hear the word Ani also in like Anishinaabe, like the tribes, and they even say Buju Ani. So there's a very interesting correlation there between the Anishinaabe people and in this part of the Hebraic language. So in Genesis 3:10, we find for the first time the words that were spoken, and that is Hineini, and that was Adam's response to when the Creator was looking for him. And let's see. Oh, I'm sorry.
Where do you see that?
I'm sorry. I'm backing this up. I
Okay.
was mixed matching my notes. I wanted to emphasize Genesis 3:10 because Adam didn't say Hineini. Let me clarify that. Okay, so in Genesis 3:10, Yahweh calls out, Adam, where are you? Adam's response was not Hineini, here I am, Lord.
Ouch.
He
was in sin.
I heard your voice in the garden, he replied, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid myself. He immediately went into a defensive response. Not a repentant response of, here I am, Lord. I'm revealing myself. I am here. I'm in this place. I have sinned. Behold me. That wasn't his response.
And when you look at people who are not wanting relationship with the Lord, they are, people say they're running from God. It looks to me like they hide from God too, because that's what we see, that Adam hid from God or tried to. I mean, so you know what's interesting about that? I've always wondered, why did God say, "Where are you?" I mean, He's all knowing. He's omniscient. Doesn't He know? But yet, what I feel like that's saying is that if you really don't want God in your life, if you're really trying to avoid Him,
He's going to give you your space.
Maybe He gives you that boundary and allows Himself not to see it.
That's good.
and allows himself not to see you. He can draw boundaries around himself if he desired. He doesn't impose upon us when we don't want him there. And so perhaps it was something to note that when God came to the garden, that he's like, interesting. He already knew Adam had hidden himself. Adam was not there. Adam was not there in his knowing, like in a cognizant way. He had decided to hide himself from God. And God at least played along, but possibly even allowed himself to be hidden from. And so it's the exact opposite of being willing and present. And I guess there was that point when Adam answered where he was like, you know what? Why am I trying to hide from the Almighty? He's going to know where I am. I may as well speak up. So this is Hey, Noon, Noon, Yod.
And remember how we were showing you how these letters have different meanings? This has a very interesting breakdown when you take the meaning of each letter and put them together. And what does the word Hineini spell out?
So, Hey is behold and revelation. So it's the image of the man with his hands raised. Behold, look. And then Noon, Noon is life, life. And Yod is the hand, okay? So it's almost like with those two noons, the Lord is saying, behold, you need to choose between two lives. You need to choose between the life that you want to lead and the life that I have created you to lead. See these two choices. It's in your hand, Yod, the decision. Which one will you choose with your hand, with what you do, with your actions? Which one will you choose to live? You have two different lives you can choose, the kingdom of light or the kingdom of darkness. And so when we look at Hineini, we need to decide, are we going to hide ourselves from God?
Or
in a
from
life
each other?
Of sin,
or from others?
Or are we going to say, behold, here I am, Yahweh. I want you, your strong and mighty right hand to guide me. Because there's only one Yod in that word. Only one
hand
is going to point. You get to choose which one it is. It's either going to be your hand or it's going to be the hand of the Almighty, pointing you in the direction that you should go.
So, the direction that Abraham went when he was asked by Yahweh to sacrifice his only son on the altar is found in Genesis 22, verse 1, and also verse 11. So we have Adam's response. Adam didn't say, here I am. But here we have Hineini being spoken by Abraham. So for the first time we hear Hineini, Genesis 22, verse 1. You want to read it? Do you have it up? Or you got 11? You read 11, I'll read 1.
Okay.
Sometime later, Yahweh tested Abraham, and he said to him, Abraham. Hineini, Abraham replied. Immediately, Abraham's reply was, here I am, Lord. Fully, in whatever happens, I am here. He recognized the call in his life, and he answered with a statement of absolute 100% commitment, not knowing what he was getting into, but he did, in complete faith, knowing that whatever it was that Creator was calling him to do, that he'd see it out to the end. So the next time you hear the same word Hineini is 10 verses later in verse 11, and it says,
but the angel of Yahweh called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Hineini.
Even still, at the point where his hand was about to be plunged into Isaac, he was called upon and he still spoke the same words. Here I am, fully, completely, no matter what happens, I'm here. That's pretty. Can you wrap your mind around that? In that moment, and still in full submission to Creator's purposes and plans. Genesis, do you have anything more on that? No, we're going to skip to Genesis 37, verse 12 through 14. And this is another time that we hear the word Hineini. And this time, it's spoken by Joseph. By Joseph, when his father asks him to go and check on his brothers. So Joseph says to his father, Hineini. Little did he know what that statement was going to bring into his life.
That's a sentence, you guys. It sounds like a word. It has an exclamation mark at the end, so to speak. There's not exactly punctuation, although there kind of is, but it's a whole sentence. It's a decision and it's final.
So can you imagine? Here he is thinking, sure, I'll go check on my brothers in the fields, without any clue knowing that his obedience to the call of his father, that what was going to take place in his life, slavery, thrown into a pit, going through all these things, but then false accusations, false trauma then imposed on the father and those who thought he was dead.
Attempted rape.
Attempted, yeah, all these things because he said Hineini to his dad.
Years of imprisonment.
But then look what happened. There was a redemption that took place.
And he saved nations. Not just one nation. He saved nations, and he saved his family. He saved an entire people groups.
Is there any doubt as to why Joseph is used so often as a Messiah type figure in Scripture? Because that's what Yeshua did. Unfortunately, the church and Christianity has dressed him up to look like a pagan Egyptian. But he was a Hebrew rabbi, a teacher, a Jewish man who kept the Torah perfectly, kept the laws, kept the commandments. So he also, I am 100% positive, said at one point in his life to his father, Hineini,
Who?
Yeshua.
Oh, yeah.
Here I am. No matter what happens, no matter what comes, fully, completely, here I am.
That's what he basically spoke that in the garden.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd already spoken that because he had been walking in the persecution, in the ministry, in the leading of the Holy Spirit. This, you guys, more and more, we are going to be called on to make decisions about that are very polar. It's polar. Hineini is a polarized word. People don't like polar things. They don't like yes or no. They
don't like black
gray.
and white, and people say that sometimes. So it's like, well, it's really not that black and white. And it's like,
it's
yes,
about context.
actually, it is.
The kingdom of light and the kingdom of darkness are very polarized, and that's not a popular thought or opinion, but to me, it's a fact. It's a spiritual fact, and during World War II, before the U.S. entered, before other countries were forced to enter or chose to enter, there was a lot of decision-making time that people could have stepped up and been advocates. They could have fought. They could have done something. But
for righteousness' sake.
Instead of taking the honorable way to defend Israel and God's people, or I guess Israel in a sense of the land being a country didn't exist at that time, but they could have chosen to defend the weak. The world could have chosen. But instead, overwhelmingly, the world chose to wait until they were dragged into the fight or until the fight came to their doorstep. Why don't we just be honorable people and stand up for what's right before the fight comes to us? Because if we're in the kingdom of light, the fight will come to us. So you're going to be dragged into it one way or another because the enemy of your soul wants you dead.
And if you confess the cross in any type of way or denomination, your head is just as good as every other head that's going to go on the chopping block. Regardless of if you're a Baptist, Pentecostal, charismatic, non-denomination, holiness, whatever it is, if you in any way, form, shape, or other confess Messiah, Christ, as your Lord and Savior, your head, it will equally be on the chopping block. But guess what? We're also warned that even people within our own fellowships, within our own families, within our own congregations, within our own communities are going to turn on each other.
And don't you leave this live stream. Oh, I see you guys dropping out like flies. Don't leave this live stream because you need to hear this. You need to hear this. We are here. I know this doesn't seem encouraging, but it is encouraging. And let me tell you why. You have a hope. You have promises. You have promises that are due to you. And the Lord is going to give us miraculous times. He's going to make our lives worth more than it could ever be worth without Him, without our destinies. He's going to give us strength, encouragement, and abilities far beyond what we could do before. He is going to do miraculous things, occurrences that could never have, even Yeshua didn't do the things that we're going to do.
Exactly,
Exactly,
Pauline. He said, greater things than these you will do. That is actually one of the things when we were sitting there in a church early in my Christian walk at the time.
Tell me you haven't wanted to walk on water.
And
tell me you haven't wanted to heal the sick.
And we sat there,
bring people back from the dead or fly.
And we thought, what is going on? Why aren't we doing greater things? What is happening? Aren't we supposed to be doing? Why are we just sitting here on our blessed assurance, singing a song, read a psalm, have some coffee in the atrium, do a little Bible study or something, and then go home, and for the rest of the week, do whatever you're going to do, and then you come back on Sunday and, do the same thing all over again. Where are the greater things? Where are the miracles? Where are the transformations? Where are the salvation? Where is the redemption? Where's the fruit of watching people's lives actually be transformed and changed? Because that shows the power of the living God in your life. So if you said Hineini, this isn't flippant. It is a call to warrior up, especially now. Now that the heat's getting applied, now that things are getting tough, now that things are getting hard, now that you could possibly lose your life, you want to shrink back and hold back? Don't. Now is the time of greatest testing. Now is the time when you can say, I'm going to choose to stand behind my words. When the Lord told me to do this, when I said Hineini, I mean it. I'm going to warrior up because the Lord of Heaven's army is calling me to battle, whether that's to be a watchman or an intercessor or to be on the streets preaching the gospel or whatever it is, serving in your church or community, whatever that is. You said Hineini, stick with it. Be consistent with your yay.
Sometimes when I look in the mirror, I remind myself that there is a dotted line across my neck. And I signed on a dotted line to put it there. I have told Yahweh, Hineini. And that is a blank check. We don't get to know. We don't get to know what He wants for us. We just need to choose.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could die just as horrifically if we don't choose His way. I saw a comment come up that says people are praying for revival. Shouldn't we be looking at reformation or something along those lines? And the answer is yes and yes.
Yes. Actually, that's even on the flyer and communications for New Mexico.
Is reformation. Reformation is key to revival.
Mm-hmm.
And we need that before we go into this time. We've got to get the reformation going.
Part of that reformation is the understanding of the seasons and the times. Mm-hmm. We have been saying this and teaching this for 2 decades, probably even more than that. The signs and the seasons, the moedims, the appointed times. Every time that there's been a massive outpouring or a time of refreshing, you would typically find it associated with an appointed time. Even our grandparents' generation, not my grandparents, but many who are watching during the tent revivals in the during the fall and the winter time, right? Powerful outpourings. Well, guess what? That's the time when God says, put up tents, and I'm going to meet you, put up tents for a week, and I'm going to encounter you, and there's going to be supernatural things that happen, and they do. Part of the Reformation is understanding his cycles of time and stepping into it. And because once you do, it will absolutely revolutionize your walk with the Creator. And it is part of the beauty of the one new man. We are not trying to teach anybody to become Jewish, because in order for there to be a one new man, there has to be Gentiles and there has to be Jews. Right? And I think part of the fullness of the Gentiles coming in is the understanding of the appointed times, the appointed seasons. We are grafted into the olive tree, not the Christmas tree.
And we're
And
grafted into Israel, not Palestine.
so we're going to leave you with, I just prattled on for a bit. Did you have something?
Oh, it was great.
Acts 9, verse 10. Because if you think, well, this might be just, a Hebraic thing or a Hebrew thing, or, this is just, something that the Jewish people would say, this is talking about Ananias. And Ananias was a Gentile. And when the Creator called upon Ananias in Acts 9:10, what did he say? Let me pull it up here. Do you have it?
He said,
Got it.
Now there was a believer in Damascus named Ananias, and Ananias spoke to him in a vision, calling, Ananias! Yes, Lord, he replied. I think it's really important to mention which Ananias in Acts we're talking about.
Yes, very much so.
There were two, and they actually, this is a great example. I'm glad you chose this.
I knew it! I knew it! Creator said, you got to bring this verse in because I'm going to give her something. So drop it.
Because
I don't know what it is. I love it.
I told you there are two noons, there are two lives in Hineini, and you're pointing with that yod to which one you want to walk. This Ananias chose a very different one than the other Ananias, okay? This Ananias was the one who heard from the Lord that he was to go and pray for Saul, because Saul, Paul, had been persecuting Christians. He was renowned throughout the believing community for being the murderer, the martyr maker of Israel.
Of these Messianic Jewish and Gentile believers, because there was no Christianity at the time. Christianity was not formed until the 4th century. So this was a branch of Judaism that was Torah keeping the commandments, keeping the feasts. The difference was now there were Gentiles being grafted in, and they believed that Yeshua was Messiah.
And Paul was very zealous. I mean, to the point of violence and making martyrs out of believers. Thankfully, you don't see that the way you used to, apparently. Not to say that there aren't extreme arms out there within the Jewish community.
There's extremists in every culture and ethnicity.
Right.
It's just it's humanity.
Thankfully, you don't see murder almost ever from the Jewish community.
Yeah, you don't hear about Jewish people strapping bombs on themselves and doing horrendous things.
But when we look at what happened, Ananias, he was probably terrified of Shaul. That's like the number one enemy being used by Hasatan, by Satan, against the believers. And what does the Lord tell him? Hey, you need to go pray for him. You need to go pray for him. Which would mean that he would find out the guy was a believer, which would mean that here he was basically had his head on the chopping block. And so he had already said Hineini, and he did it. And what happened? Instead of his head getting chopped off, the man got healed. Scales fell off of his eyes. He was able to see clearly. The vision that he'd had of Yeshua became a realization and a revelation. We talk about the hay at the beginning of Hineini being a
Behold,
revelation
I,
event.
yeah.
And so what happened was life was spared that day when he said Hineini, when he thought it was certain death. Instead, God did a miracle. God did a miracle,
You
and
mean
he can do that with you guys too.
nobody
The
was?
Lord may save our lives,
Yeah,
1,000 times before it's the end of our
many times not
days.
even knowing it.
He's already saved my life so many times.
Same
I'm
here.
on borrowed time. Like, whatever life I have that he gives me left is just a boon.
Interesting too that Ananias. I know often they say that he was a non-Jew, and we immediately give him the title Gentile, but he was a Syrian. He was from Damascus, which was Syria, ancient Persia. So he was a Persian. He was a Middle Eastern man. Just so you kind of get some concept when you think in your mind, don't think of like a Greek, blonde-haired, blue-eyed person. This was a Middle Eastern Persian man, but he was a non-Israelite.
The other
That's
Ananias,
really far too. The distance. That's a really far distance from Damascus to where to just the area of Jerusalem where Paul was. When we think about it, wow. Okay, sorry.
so the other Ananias was the husband of Sapphira. And Ananias and Sapphira conspired to lie and pretend like they were doing something more than what they were doing for the body of believers. And so they tried to walk somewhere in between those noons
They try
in
to
a
sit on
gray
the
line.
fence. They were fence sitters. You can't sit on the fence. Again, another allegory of you have to make a decision. When he says that he will spew you out of his mouth, vomit is the actual word. Vomit. Vomit you out of your mouth. If you're neither hot nor cold, right? You need to be hot or cold. Make a choice or decision. Fence sitting gets you nothing but splinters in all the most awful places. So I don't know.
Okay. Uh, on that note, let us not be like Ananias and Sapphira. If you're going to give something, be honest about it. If you're going to be questioned about a man of God, tell the truth. We need to choose. We need to make choices, and we need to be righteous,
When
as
he's
righteous as we can, and the Lord will fill in the gaps of our righteousness with his grace and with the blood of Yeshua.
when he says, "Choose you this day who you will serve," when you proclaim over you and your family, "As for me and my house, we will serve Yahweh." Those are all declarations. Stand behind them. As Native people. There's a lot of Native people that watch these teachings, and as Native people, one of the most devastating things for us was in our culture and tradition, you didn't have to shake hands when you gave your word. I mean, many of our tribes we would smoke pipe together because the tobacco in the pipe was used for prayer. So it was like a witness before the Creator of giving each other our word and knowing that no matter what, we were going to keep our word to one another. And so the devastation of the broken treaties, that's why it's so highly affected our people, and especially when you bring the element of the spirit of the Creator into ceremony or into a pact or a treaty or a making of relatives ceremony, like our ancestors, Cacique Aguevana, he made a Guaitiao ceremony with Columbus. He did the making of relatives ceremony with Columbus. Words of promises were exchanged and then broken. So when you say Hineini, please understand the statement that you are making. Are you willing to fully give your life unto death for the kingdom? And once you come to that acceptance, there's no fear. There's a boldness and a courage that will come upon you, because then it's there and it's locked away and it's back behind you, and now you can focus on your kingdom purpose. So, Father, our prayer is that kingdom purpose, kingdom destiny be fulfilled for everyone who has spoken the words Hineini, for everyone who has said, "Here I am, Lord, here I am, Yahweh, use me for your ministry, use me to serve." Father, I ask that you bring peace, that goes beyond all understanding to everyone, that they not be afraid, that the spirit of fear be bound from keeping people from speaking up and speaking out, for keeping people from doing and putting feet behind the faith and behind being bold in their righteousness, for doing what is right. Father, I ask that you continue to bring truth in the midst of this darkness, and that you use every single person listening to this and watching this, that you use them. Those who have committed wholeheartedly, fully understand what they're getting into them. Father, use them to the fullness of what their destiny and their calling is, for your kingdom and for your glory and for your honor, for you, Creator Yahweh, Yehovah. This is all for you, and we thank you. We thank you for the way that was made by Yeshua. He is our rabbi, he is our teacher, and we thank you for empowering us with your Ruach HaKodesh
Yes.
to walk out the words Hineini in our lives.
Yes. And the Lord told me to read Psalm 17,
Go for it.
a prayer of David. Hear a just cause, Yahweh. Attend to my cry. Give ear to my prayer from lips free of deceit. We just talked about Ananias and deceit. We just talked about, we've been praying for justice for this murder. From your presence, let my vindication come. Let your eyes behold the right.
Behold.
Behold. No
wonder he told you to come to this.
You have tried my heart. You have visited me by night.
We talked about what is trying your heart. That's a military term. I know this from the Army. That's a term that it means testing your courage. Okay.
You have tested me, and you will find nothing.
Ooh, wow.
I have purposed that my mouth will not transgress. Ananias. You want to read some?
With regard to the works of man by the word of your lips, I have avoided the ways of the violent. Now, it is absolutely okay, absolutely 100% avoid the ways of the violent, because we know that the wicked take the kingdom by force. They take it with violence. But it doesn't mean that we're to be sheep led to the slaughter. There's nothing wrong with with defending yourself, defending your families, defending your homes, defending your property, defending your people and your communities. Yahweh told Nehemiah the very same thing, that he was to work with a shovel in one hand and a sword in the other. And Yeshua himself, when he was telling the disciples, I'm sending you out as sheep among wolves, read a little bit later, and that's when he tells all of them, not just Kepha, not just Peter, to fulfill the prophecy, the whole thing with the ear, not just, he said to all of them, sell your cloaks and buy what?
Swords.
In the context of, I'm sending you out as sheep among wolves, if that is your calling.
And
to give your life as a martyr. Absolutely. And that's your calling, yes.
What's the difference between the martyrs in our religion and the martyrs in the enemy's religion? The difference is we lay down our lives like Yeshua did. Their martyrs are strapping on bombs
to take
and
other lives,
murdering people. That's not what our martyrs do. We can defend ourselves. That is biblical. But we don't go out and aggressively blow up innocent people.
The reason why the IDF is called the Israeli Defense Force. They act in defense. Okay.
Verse 5.
My steps have held fast to your path. My feet have not slipped.
I call upon you, for you will answer me, O God. Incline your ear to me. Hear my words.
Wondrously show your steadfast love, O Savior of those who seek refuge from their adversaries at your right hand.
Keep me as the apple of your eye. Hide me in the shadow of your wings from the wicked who do me violence and deadly enemies who surround me.
They close their hearts to pity. With their mouths they speak arrogantly. That's all over social media. That's all you'll see.
They have now surrounded our steps. They set their eyes to cast us to the ground.
Meaning to kill you. He is like a lion eager to tear, as a young lion lurking in ambush.
Arise, O Yahweh, confront him, subdue him, deliver my soul from the wicked by your sword.
From men, by your hand, O Yahweh, from men of the world, whose portion is in this life.
You fill their womb with treasure. They are satisfied with children, and they leave their abundance to their infants.
As for me, I shall behold your face, your panim, in righteousness, tzedakah. When I awake, I shall be satisfied with your likeness. This is also a metaphor of not just waking physically, but also on the day of your death, when you awaken. When that trumpet call blasts and you are risen, this is what you'll see.
So thank you for joining us with today on Preparation Day before the Sabbath. We're grateful to you.
We're
Thank you
grateful
for everybody for supporting us with your prayers.
Yes,
Those who have been praying for our hearts and our grieving process, we're thankful to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, and for the kind messages and just words of love and encouragement as we mourn our friend.
And thank you to the Jewish community. You're probably not watching this because this is a preaching sermon, but we're grateful because they have been beginning to raise support for us to go to the funeral. So
that was pretty amazing and totally,
we
completely
didn't even
unexpected.
Ask for it,
didn't ask for it. They just called us from Israel this morning and said, "Hey, this is what we want to do for your people." And also, I'm thankful. I am so thankful that Creator showed me where to put our router in order to have a good live stream with good audio and good, clear video and communication.
Up until we get
fiber optics. Yep,
and coming soon.
Very soon. So
thank you, you guys.
Yes, thank you guys. Before the 33rd, and those are some pretty interesting things that were being placed on there. How 33 means a sign, and Yeshua lived 33 years. I wasn't able to put
debatable.
It's debatable. I wasn't able to put the schedule on the website yet, but that is coming. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it before Shabbat starts, but I want you all to know we've also added some things in Oklahoma. We'll be in June. We'll be in Lawton and in Oklahoma City, and then as well as sharing our schedule for New Mexico. We're pretty much all filled up for that. Almost. We have just 3 days where we'll be joining moccasins across America on different reservations.
And we still are waiting for our Pentecost venue.
Yes, and the Pentecost venue, which we're hoping will be at the same place as the gathering with the Mongolians and the Maori and others. So please pray about the venue where we can all gather, and we hope to see you there. So, Yaya Kakona, Choreto Guari, many blessings to you all, and we will see you tomorrow.
Though he gets his tea, he's here.